All right, everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. So this is for February 27th through March 5th of 2017. And this is, of course, using the actual size and location of the constellations in the sky. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to check out the link down in the description because the signs are different and you'll want to make sure you're watching this video for your right sign. All right, so that's what we're going to do first is just look at the general energies of the week, and then we'll go into the specific signs after the general, so you can look at this for your sun, moon, and ascendant sign. So this week, essentially what we've got is coming right into it. We're still very much in the solar eclipse energy, solar eclipse phase, the beginning of a lot of what has shaped up since last weekend. So if you recall last weekend, there was likely some things you were releasing, some things about maybe the past, or, often with the South Node, it's not very conscious, so it's very unconscious, maybe yearnings or attachments, things like this that have been dissipating. And so essentially what we've got this week is now a implementation of whatever this new refreshing sort of new beginning is in terms of what we've released. So a great week for essentially cultivating these new beginnings. I think the first few days, maybe Monday through Wednesday, just kind of seeing what new things are shaping up in your life. It might be specific intentions, it might be just general feelings and energies, but whatever it is, it's very good to be sort of flexible and adaptive and just see where life is taking us. It is great to set intentions. It is great to take action and things like that, but it's still very early in the phase in that, the seeds are just sprouting. And so it's very important to be flexible and kind of go wherever life is taking us. All right, so that's the week generally in terms of an undertone. Definitely a continuation of the new beginnings. Again, great for action, but still low energy at the beginning of the week. And then as we go through the rest of the week, more energy picking up and a bit of momentum being built. So in terms of the aspects, we do have a lot of important aspects this week. Another important week, in fact. Kicking things off, we do have Mars in that conjunction with Uranus, who will be opposing up to Jupiter on Monday. And this is playing the theme that Jupiter has been opposing up to Uranus for quite some time. This is two very slow-moving planets, so it takes a lot of time to work its way out. This is, in fact, the second aspect of this. This has been going on since late December. So we'll talk about that. Mars over Uranus, opposite Jupiter, very important starting off the week. And then also this week, we do have the Sun conjoining up to Neptune, so a bit of spiritualization taking place with our self-expression. And then we have Venus going retrograde as we go into the weekend, so some reconsiderations with our values. And Mercury goes over Neptune. Again, this spiritualization about what matters to us on a soul level and cultivating things on a soul level there with Mercury. And then the week does end with Mars trining up to Saturn, which is a very supportive aspect, great for getting things done. I think collectively we could be willing to take things slow for whatever these personal needs are that are kicking off at the beginning of the week. So let's talk about this. Starting off the week on Monday, still very solar eclipse time. Again, it's a lowered energy time, but we do have a lot of this confidence and a lot of this sort of motivation could certainly be possible with probably making some sort of changes in our life. Again, maybe from some insights you gained last Sunday. But whatever it is, Mars opposite Jupiter can really give us a lot of the confidence and motivation. And I think towards creating those changes, particularly the changes to where we can have freedom in our life and fit our life and restructure our life in such a way that it is more of an expression of who we truly are, on a soul level. And you could even say in terms of our higher self, it's more of an expression of our true selves. So very good there for Monday through Tuesday, taking action, motivation, drive, making those changes, and whatever new things that, again, is about implementing that freedom in our life. Now, I do want to say that it is important to be balanced with oppositions. And so if you are feeling a lot of the Mars energy, which could be very self-oriented, or rash or impatient, things like that, it is important to bring extra attention there to keep things nice and balanced, remembering to be patient, cooperative, that kind of thing. But all in all, it is a very positive aspect, and I think a lot of it does have to do with, again, these new beginnings. So Mercury will be over the south node on Monday as well. Again, it's all part of the solar eclipse. There's still past things being released on Monday, probably involving our mind, some past perspectives being released. That can be very rejuvenating as a result. In fact, maybe changing the routine on Monday can be an excellent way of working with it as well. So that's the beginning. And then as we get into about midweek, we really start to feel the Jupiter opposite Uranus side of this. And it's going to be an orb all week long. And again, this has been going on since late December. So if you can think back to late December, was there anything in your life that you felt like you did want to expand? Maybe some potentials? Again, likely some sort of reflection of having more freedom in your life. And again, we'll look at this more specifically for your signs. But this is the week where it goes exact for the second time. So Jupiter is retrograde, mind you, with all of this. So although I think this is taking on a new shift in a new direction, and I think this week we're going to be understanding a lot about, again, what it is we want and where we can have freedom and the potentials we're cultivating. But with that, there's a lot of reconsideration with that. Jupiter's retrograde. We're reconsidering the potentials, rethinking things, maybe specifically reworking some things that we have been expanding since late December, or even earlier, since pretty much all of 2016. So whatever that is, I think it's definitely a shift in a new direction. We'll probably feel that midweek of understanding, but then still being flexible and reconsidering what these potentials are. But again, there could be a lot of freedom with this and a great time to really cultivate a lot of that, especially as we'll be entering into the crescent phase of the lunar cycle, which is, again, building a bit of momentum there. Now, the sun is going to go over Neptune around the same time, midweek. So this is really spiritualizing things. Usually when this happens, it does create a bit of a haze or a fog, not mentally necessarily, but it just creates a bit of haziness in our life. And the purpose of it is so that we can go within to get the insight, to the intuitive insight. And I think what's going to be shaping up with this, and it coincides with the solar eclipse, is that this is about some new beginning, about gaining a greater understanding about what gives us soul fulfillment, right? What is an expression of our soul on an emotional, spiritual, deeper level? And, we'll see which houses these are for you, but, generally this is what's taking place. So it's good to go within. If the mind or the conscious self gets too active, it can be confusing or doubtful. So that's why it's important to go within for this. Surrender, let go. The more willing we are to do that, then we're gaining the insight, which is much more of the intuitive type versus the mental or rational type. All right. And then through that, yes, there is this new beginning about cultivating things that are an expression of our soul in this way. Uranus and Neptune are like masculine and feminine energies. Uranus is the spirit of the soul, or the free spirit. It's the true self. It's the excitement. It's the masculine side to the higher self of taking action, all that we're talking about. But the Neptune is the receptive side to it, the feminine side. So they're both octaves of the higher self, and they're both very much playing a role this week. So it's really gearing towards the fact that there's both an outer expression of the week, of, again, making those changes, but then also a receptive approach and listening and going within, and those insights unfolding. All right, so that's midweek. Then as we get into the weekend, Venus does go retrograde. And so collectively, there is now this reconsideration of what we value. What is it we value in life? And this could certainly be material values, which Venus often represents, finances, assets, investments, but generally just all the material things in our life. And the reconsideration is essentially just an inner process, which all retrogrades are, an inner process of rediscovering over these next few weeks what we truly value, what it is we truly value in life. And this can also play a role in relationships as well. There will be a lot of reconsideration, reworking, rethinking the whole relationship dynamics. And that's all relationships, mind you. And, just to put this in perspective, this does happen once a year. So, it is the time of the year, you could say now, for these coming weeks, to kind of rethink and reconsider those values and people we value in our lives, how we relate there, cooperate, and, work with others. So that's the Venus retrograde. Then as we get into Saturday, Mercury goes over Neptune. So there is, definitely, like I was saying, the spiritualization. This is probably more to do with the mind. So this is where the rational mind can actually benefit from intuitive insight. All right, these are very different energies. So again, it can create confusion and whatnot if the mind's trying to figure things out this week, particularly if it's projecting into the future or projecting into any ideals or fantasies or dreams. There's nothing wrong with having dreams, obviously, but being rooted in the present moment and being aware of and conscious and grateful for what we have in the present moment, and letting go and surrendering everything that's outside of our immediate sphere of influence. Because Mercury is the mind. It wants to control. It's like Virgo. It wants to control things and improve things and make things a certain way. But over Neptune, it's saying, okay, but it's also important to detach and let go of everything outside of our control, which is the things like our future and everything outside of our immediate sphere of influence. So it's not going to be challenging necessarily. This is a neutral aspect. They're just two very different energies. And I think your own personal ability to go within and listen to that intuition and let go of, again, everything outside your sphere is really a great way of working with this. And as a result, certainly more of these new beginnings, which are about us connecting to our soul and doing things that are a greater expression of our soul. All right. Then the week ends with Mars trining up to Saturn. Again, this is an excellent aspect for getting things done. It's our drives, our motivations, and very good support with the side of ourselves that wants to be patient and disciplined. And so we can put in the work. We can put in the patient effort that it does take to build things and to cultivate the things that are personally important to us. So we'll look at the houses again, but generally going into next week, there's a lot of support for taking action, long-term goals. We have the patience and we have the energy to move things forward, whatever we might be guided to at that time. All right, so that is the week in a nutshell. I would say again, just as a fundamental, it's a new beginning week. We're just coming off of that solar eclipse from Sunday. Things will be building momentum. Mars is in good aspect in a sense that we could be feeling the confidence, the motivation for freedom in our life, for our life to be greater expression of our true selves, and then also our soul with all of these aspects with the Sun and Neptune, Mercury and Neptune. Certainly new beginnings with that. And and it's all in relation to late December. So if you want to think back to that time, if there's anything you've been inspired to do since then, or you've made some changes since then, it could be a week where things start to shift and shifting in the right direction, even though there is still reconsideration. That's what we want to do, is still reconsider, rework these possibilities. Then the weekend is a little different in the sense that there is still a spiritualization and whatnot. We start to reconsider some of the things we value, our relationships, but then Mars trines Saturn, which gives us a good groundedness and structure, not to mention the fact that we'll be well into the lunar cycle at that time. So there'll certainly be a bit of motivation and drive, just in the sense of, more awareness and a bit more willingness to take some actions. All right. So let's go ahead and look at this now for each of the individual signs. You can click the comment section down below. There's a timestamp next to each of the signs. You can click it for your sun, moon, and ascendant, and that'll give you the most detailed picture. Welcome, Aries, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So, a lot of the things we do talk about in the general very much applies to you because of the fact that all of the signs and houses are linked up. For example, Pisces, which is about receptive things and all of this, is your 12th house, which is also about receptive things. So, but let's go and look at this a bit more in the context of it being your particular forecast and your horoscope. And this is first by looking at your ruler Mars, right? So your ruler Mars essentially represents you in the chart, and you in the chart has been in your 12th house for about the past couple months. What that essentially means is that you've likely been spending some time behind the scenes, okay? And it is a very behind the scenes sort of time for you because we do have a lot of planets there at the moment. So particularly though with your ruler, very good time for still getting a bit of R&R if you're guided to. Some of you are likely going through some sort of spiritualization, whether it's through meditation or spiritual practices. Some of you are likely diving deep with your psychology and understanding more about yourself on a deeper level, and how you can have more peace and tranquility in the sense of really accepting all these deeper aspects of the self, like, you know, the process we have to go through of accepting traumas and fears and all this deep psychological stuff, which really does get brought to the surface in the 12th. But the purpose, of course, is for the acceptance of them. And even in the general sense of our whole life, of accepting where we're at in our life, accepting who we are even, accepting our career, our relationships, whatever. That's the whole process of Pisces, which then leads to peace. All right? Because what happens when we fully accept, we surrender, we let go, we're okay with everything outside of our control. There's a divine process, if you will, or a universal process. We let go to that, and that's very tranquil. And so that's what's still going on, and that's what makes it such a good time for those spiritual activities. So that's your ruler in the context of all of this, but your ruler conjoining up to Uranus from last Sunday, opposing up to Jupiter, does mean that coming into this week, although it's a lowered energy time for you, there is this newfound sense of freedom. And this only happens once every 2.5 years with Mars over Uranus. Newfound freedom of now starting a new beginning for 2.5 years in terms of where you can have more freedom in your life. Likely from letting go and detaching, which is again the 12th house, or whatever these spiritual or psychological activities are, or things are that you're doing. But that's what it is. It's a new beginning, a new week now of you cultivating this freedom. And that can be very exciting. And your confidence could be good. Your motivation can be good. Again, in a receptive way, though, which is maybe about working behind the scenes or about some of those spiritual activities. So along with that, Mars opposite Jupiter does give you great sort of feeling like there's possibilities and potentials in your life good as well, which is really good. And this has been a Jupiter in your 6th, which probably has more to do with your work, your routine, and anything on that daily level, which has been the area of expansion. So there has been potentials here for about the past 6 or 7 months. And even though Jupiter's retrograde, there still is potentials, but it's more internal. And that's the whole reconsideration thing that you could certainly continue to do this week, is kind of reconsider some of those potentials with your work or with your routine or your health, your diet, your regimens, anything on that daily level. But it can be very inspiring coming into this week. So that's certainly the most important part. And then, of course, at week's end with your ruler, Mars trining up to Saturn, does give you very good support for long-term goals and plans and just a bit of structure in your life. And that's been Saturn in your 8th really helping you build structure and build things in your life, build foundations in your life that are based on truth, that are based on openness with yourself, openness with life, intimacy with life, really connecting to what matters most. And only the things that you build at this time that are deep and meaningful to you can be built. But you've got the support certainly to do this going into next week with that. All right, Venus going retrograde in the 12th also suggests about Friday through Saturday, towards the second half, there's likely this reconsideration that you'll be doing about what you value about this alone time, or what you value about tranquility in your life. And again, your relationships, your values, all that stuff, because Venus does rule those areas. And maybe particularly, this more spiritual connection to your relationships or spiritual connection to your values. Again, it's all in the 12th house. So it's more about the soul fulfillment, soul connection there. All right, speaking of which, this week with the Sun and Mercury going over Neptune, there is a lot of intuition. And the intuition in this sense is likely coming from what was the solar eclipse in your 11th. Likely from last weekend, you've been releasing a lot of past things, or just releasing things in general about your aspirations in life. And for some of you, about organizations you're a part of, or your friends, or your network circles, which is also 11th. But most fundamentally, your aspirations. So whatever that releasing has been, it's certainly a week of cultivating that. And there's a lot of intuition you could be gaining with that, with the Sun and Mercury over Neptune in the 11th. Essentially, what some of these ideals are, some of these aspirations are, and how you can let go and detach and surrender, and how it's that process that does get you there, so to speak. But there's no there yet. It's all in the present moment. So it's important not to obviously project, because that can create, like I was saying, the confusion and the doubt, and just the uncertainty with it. But knowing that there is a divine process, and by going within, you can certainly align with that and feel and know that everything is unfolding in timing, in divine timing, natural timing, however you see that, about those aspirations. Okay? And so more things over the next 6 months will be cultivated regarding those aspirations of yours, but particularly about where you can let unhealthy things go or past things go to free you up here, so you can essentially cultivate your passions in life, your personal passions. And that's been the North Node in the 5th house. All right, that's where the life path has been taking you. 2016 and 2017 is towards your self-expression, whether it's for some of you hobbies, interests, anything that's close to your heart, anything that you consider, passionate or fun, and even entertaining, or just that's close to the heart. Okay, so with that conscious orientation, I think that's what's facilitating a lot of this letting go, so you can cultivate these things you're passionate about. All right, Aries. So yeah, that's the week in a nutshell. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. But thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And I will see you all next week. Welcome, Taurus, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So first things first, let's look at your ruler Venus, who is in the 11th house, and there's a lot of energy in your 11th house. This is the house of your aspirations. And so this house is playing a big role this week, because right at the beginning on Monday, we do have Mars over Uranus here, likely giving you a bit of boost towards your aspirations. For some of you, it will likely be your network circles or community related things, your friends, maybe something like that, something new there about that whole network circle perspective. But most fundamentally for all of you, your aspirations, your future aspirations, your personal hopes and wishes for the future. So there's, although again, this receptive beginning to the week with the solar eclipse, there is this newfound freedom here. And I think it's an excellent week for cultivating it, feeling the boost, using the boost. You've got the confidence, the motivation, or whatever it is to, again, facilitate those future things. Now, it's all in regards to the fact that this is opposite Jupiter, and Jupiter's been retrograde in your 5th, which does suggest that, yes, there are possibilities for you to be cultivating the things you're passionate about, the things that are close to your heart, that are fun or entertaining, or just that, matter to you on that, from that heart level, So even though Jupiter's retrograde, there is still possibilities and potentials here, but what you're likely going to find is that this week there's some sort of new understanding about your passions or interests. And there's this reconsideration that you're doing, and all the stuff you're reconsidering over these next 3 or 4 months are going to be playing a role, or this reworking you're doing with maybe some of these potentials is playing a role in what will continue to move forward once Jupiter goes direct. So it's the learning phase of this. And so with a willingness to learn about, again, what you're passionate about, and even I would say too, whatever it is you're cultivating with these aspirations, with that flexibility there, it can be excellent. And like I said, certainly some new insights this week with Jupiter opposite Uranus around Thursday and Friday. All right, so that's the 11th house side to this. Certainly the strongest house for you because, again, your ruler is here. Your ruler is going to go retrograde Friday through Saturday. So, right around there, she's going to go station. She'll go retrograde for the next few weeks. So you're going to go through a rehashing and reconsideration process in your own personal life. And this will have to do with you, your goals, maybe even your routine gets restructured usually with Venus retrogrades. And in the area of the 11th, again, reconsidering these aspirations. So there's a lot of stuff still up in the air. And I think your willingness to rework and redo and just kind of maybe for some of you take a step back or go within or reconsider some things involving all this will be very important. And again, a lot of the stuff that you learn in this case over the next few weeks about yourself, about what you want in life, about your routine, and about those aspirations, you'll be able to implement and move forward. So certainly a great time to do that. Take a step back, restructure things, whatever it might be for you personally. All right, so that's certainly the most important things of the week. And then, of course, at week's end, Mars does trine up to Saturn. So again, there is good structure and patience and discipline that I think you can put into those aspirations. It's just Mars is very well aspected in the 11th, which is good. Again, with this one, just a bit of groundedness, some long-term goals. You're being patient with all this stuff. A lot of it might have to do with relationships. Over the past couple of years, I think you have been sort of integrating a lot of patience with relationships in your life, or more maturity or more responsibility. For some of you, commitment in relationships, but taking it nice and slow nonetheless. And so that's very supportive for you going into next week. It's the whole patience and structure and doing things right when it comes to the whole relationship level. All right. And then, of course, this is all in the context of the fact that last weekend we had the solar eclipse in your 10th, which was likely you're releasing some things having to do with either your career or your things you want, like your success, your achievements in life, your public image. That's 10th house stuff. But most fundamentally, I would say, it's your sort of legacy, whatever you consider your legacy is. So a lot of that has been released. And so it's a week of cultivating this new understanding, this new beginning with letting go of all these things that are no longer serving you, these perspectives and patterns and yearnings from the past having to do with career and stuff that is now freeing you up this week and creating a bit more space. And over the next 6 months, you'll certainly be cultivating more of the career and the productive stuff relating to, again, releasing the unhealthy patterns and whatever changes that you feel like you're going to be making this week. Now, the Neptune side to it is that there is this, again, spiritualization to the week. And this has been Neptune in your 10th, helping you really connect to your career in a way that is more fulfilling to your soul. So with the Sun over Neptune Wednesday through Thursday, you could gain some intuitive insight about where you can have some more soul fulfillment with your career. Or maybe for some of you where you can give and contribute through your career, do something on that level, which is giving in nature. Not coming from any place of like wanting something from it, but just merely the act of giving and doing that sort of compassionate or giving or other oriented work can be very fulfilling with Neptune the 10th. If it's on the interpersonal level. If it's not on the interpersonal, maybe it's more about just your own personal connection to what you do and in the present moment, cultivating things you enjoy in the present moment with your career. And then Mercury over Neptune on Saturday can help you learn a lot about that, in fact. Intuitively, though. All right, it's not so much the conscious, it's more of the intuitive. So all week long, there's plenty of intuitive insight, I think, for you to cultivate, again, a career that's more of an expression of both your outer true self, what excites you, but most fundamentally, what gives you soul satisfaction there. All right, so yeah, Taurus, that's the week in a nutshell. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. But thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And I will see you all next week. Take care. Welcome, Geminis, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So let's first have a look at your ruler Mercury, right? So Mercury in your ninth house. I think a lot of things are still continuing to unfold about where you can open your mind to possibilities. That's essentially what the ninth house is. It's the house of the life path. So it's the open range. It's the adventurous spirit. It's the open mind to cultivating the things that give you spirit, that give you that flame of, it's kind of like excitement, but it's more like freedom of, cultivating the things that inspire you, right? That you feel inspired towards, that you see as possible. And so there's been a lot of past perspectives and attachments and yearnings for all of this that's been released since last Sunday, last weekend, when we had the solar eclipse. And because the solar eclipse was conjunct your ruler Mercury, there was likely a lot of things about you very personally, very specifically, that were released. Okay, and maybe specifically with the past, in fact, because Mercury does rule your fourth house, or things dealing with home, family, or health. So whatever those transformations were, it's an excellent week to cultivate this, to do the releasing, and you've already done it, but just continue to kind of integrate whatever this shift is, these past things being released, so that you can cultivate now this new, freer, more balanced, and healthier perspective about what's possible in life, about your life path, and anything that does involve that adventurous spirit of yours. All right, for some of you, it could be new beginnings with philosophies and ideals, or travel, or just a bit more adventure in your life in general. All right, so that's your ruler, and then your ruler will be there all week in that ninth house. So I think you'll continue to learn quite a bit about all this open-minded stuff. Now, on Saturday, Mercury does go over Neptune there. The Sun will go over Neptune earlier in the week, about Wednesday, Thursday. So there's a lot of intuitive insight about all this. And, I think it's a great week to listen, to go within. It's going to be more so an active week by week's end. So as the week unfolds, certainly, taking action towards these new beginnings and towards some of these career things, which I'll talk about next. But, with all this Neptune, the Sun, and your ruler over Neptune, particularly on Saturday, there's a haze coming over, and the purpose of it is for us to go within for the answers, versus for the mind to figure it out, or to see it consciously. So going within is very important, particularly on Saturday for you. And through that, getting that internal intuition about the life path, about that adventure spirit, and that open mind there. And you'll likely be spiritualizing yourself, it being your ruler. Saturday going into next week, just probably a much more receptive and accepting you is unfolding throughout this process. Probably, again, seeing that what Neptune's been showing you in the ninth, that all this life path stuff does unfold in divine timing. And all these possibilities unfold in divine timing as well. All right, so that's the Mercury side to it. Now, in terms of this whole career stuff I was talking about, you have a lot of energy here right at the beginning of the week. Mars does conjoin up to Uranus and opposes up to Jupiter. So you could be feeling quite confident or motivated towards career, or for some of you, it's your productive life. For others, your public image, your legacy, things like this, achievement and success. It's a lot of good energy for this because Mars is at the top of the chart. And with Uranus has already been helping you mix up your career and have more freedom in your career, so it's more of an expression of what you're about and who you are. So that's the motivation, drive there. I think it's an excellent week, again, especially as the week unfolds, to take those actions there that you might feel like you're guided to have, again, more freedom with your career, more freedom with your productive life, and have it be more of an expression of who you are. All right, then the opposition up to Jupiter side to this is that there is this whole reconsideration that a lot of you are doing with your personal life. For some of you, it's your home or family life. For others, it's your health. So continue to do that. I think there will be some insights about these foundational personal things in your life this week, pretty much all week long, but particularly around Thursday and Friday more than likely, or even coming into the week. But still sort of reconsider, still kind of rehash, redo some of this stuff relating to your roots. And I think through that, you'll gain the insight, and then you'll be learning a lot about much of this stuff in the process over these next few months in particular. All right, but there is potentials here. You know, there's opportunities. They're just more internal right now, having to do with home, family, and health. And again, learning is a great way of working with it. All right, Venus does go retrograde Friday and Saturday for the next few weeks. So there are some things about your career that you're also going to be reconsidering, particularly what you value about your career or your productive life. All right, and a lot of you will be sort of reconsidering too what you're passionate about, what you enjoy with your career. You know, there's the enjoyment with Venus of value, you know, what you are attracted to and enjoy in your career in that sense. But then with Venus ruling your fifth, there's also the passion side to it. So reconsidering what it is you're passionate about, what you enjoy, what you find fun, and bringing in probably a bit more fun actually into your career, or at least reconsidering that over the next few weeks. And even a bit more peace there too, actually. And again, maybe a bit more soul connection to your career as well. All right, and then, week's end, Mars trines up to Saturn. So there is a lot of support here for anything productive. Very good to have Mars at the top of the chart in Saturn's house, trine by Saturn. So, and Saturn's been in your sixth. So a lot of you over the past couple of years have been spending a lot of good time structuring your routine or your work, whatever it is you do on a daily level, or developing your crafts at work for a lot of you. So all that's very supportive here for you this weekend and going into next week to take some actions towards, again, the career. All right, and there's some good motivation and drive to do that. All right, so Geminis, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. But have a great one. See you next week. Welcome, Cancers, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So looking first at your ruler, the moon, very important when we have solar eclipses for you, because it is very much a new beginning for you personally, even your goals and things like this. And a lot of that will likely have to do with the deeper dimensions of life. You had the solar eclipse in your 8th house last Sunday. And so this is now this new beginning about releasing, very specifically, because that's what the 8th house is about. That's what the South Node's about. And so, going deep to do that. So this week, continuing with whatever it is that you've released already since last weekend, and just kind of integrating that in your life. Or for some of you, started some new beginning about healthy interdependency, something to do maybe with shared resources or debts or bonds or things like this on a financial or material level, or inheritance or something like that, that now is, these sort of perspectives about them, or these things literally, because you've let go of whatever the yearnings are, the attachments are with them, you can certainly be cultivating them now for the next 6 months in this more balanced and healthy sense. That's for those of you going through more of the material side to it. For all of you, though, most fundamentally, it is about connecting to life on a deeper level, and going within psychologically and emotionally, seeing where you can accept. Essentially, it's the eighth house is almost like the death of life. It's like you accepting death, not literally, but that's how deep it can go. Just to give you an idea, so it might be the death of something in particular, or just dealing with things like fears, and inhibitions and wounds, and accepting. That's really the key with the 8th house, and the 12th house for that matter, is acceptance. And it's through all this acceptance that you are doing, and all this awareness that you are gaining about yourself and life on that deeper level. That's creating more of a real connection and a vulnerable connection with life, which is over these coming months, and even this whole lunar cycle, these coming weeks, of you cultivating things in your life that are an expression of what you're about, that do matter to you, that matter most to you, right? This is the 8th house. It's real, it's deep, but the result is connecting to that soul level, that core of what we truly value in life, all right? And then, of course, you transforming and liberating yourself through all this psychological or spiritual work or emotional work that you could be doing or have been doing. It's freeing you up, because you're letting go of the fears. You're letting go of the dead skin. All these past things that, again, is creating transformation and change for you. Some of you, this might have a lot to do with relationships, in fact, too. So as you're getting open and vulnerable with your relationships, or all your one-to-one connections. And I think that's going to happen naturally as you do the work for yourself. But that could be happening too, and that's creating more deeper relationships, right? Where there's more openness or trust and vulnerability and all that good stuff too. So very important this week with that. You're learning a lot about it. Mercury's there. The sun's going to go over Neptune. Mercury's going to go over Neptune. So there's a lot of intuitive insight about all this. And again, sort of letting go and surrendering everything outside of your immediate control with it will really help facilitate the process. And again, also things like meditation or alone time or reflection can really help you gain this intuitive insight. Although I think it's coming anyways, it can just help you get on the right side of it so you're flowing with it instead of working against it this week. But as the week unfolds, you're likely going to find you are gaining a bit more energy as your ruler starts to pick up momentum in this lunar cycle. And even though it's a receptive week, though, right at the beginning on Monday, Mars does go over Uranus in your 9th. And this is the house of what happens after we transform. This is the house of adventure. It's the house of philosophy. It's the house of open-mindedness. And so you've got a lot of energy here, and it's already been very good for you to kind of put energy into your adventurous things, or open-mindedness, or ideas, or philosophies, higher learning. Some of you adventure, travel of that kind, hiking, walking, going for more walks, anything that opens your horizon. So there's likely a bit of confidence coming into this week and motivation towards that stuff with Mars over Uranus. And I think it's great to listen to, great to continue to cultivate. There is some things you're likely reconsidering about your mind or the day-to-day stuff, maybe quite literally things you're writing, or things having to do with communication or trade and business for some of you. That's all going through a reconsideration. So allow yourself the time this week to do that, to just know that, yes, there's still potentials here with like reading, writing, sharing, communicating, and trading and business and all this, and maybe even potentials with connecting to your peers or your community and even your siblings for some of you. But it's all in reflection with Jupiter retrograde. So you want to be adaptive, you want to be flexible, and just kind of see what you're learning at this time, and maybe even quite literally redo some potentials that you've been cultivating in this area. All right, but there's a lot of freedom here with this. Jupiter opposite Uranus midweek, Thursday through Friday, does give the buoyancy there of the adventure, yet also about possibilities with the practical. It's like the possible and the practical, the right side of the brain, the left side of the brain are connecting this week, and that can really help you see both sides of that, or of whatever it is you're working on. Venus going retrograde Friday through Saturday is going to help you learn a lot just in general about your personal belief systems and what you value in your life that does have to do with adventure and open-mindedness. So that should be some shifting there going on this week and going into next week, just starting to kind of go within, reconsider, some of these open-minded things, and specifically what you value with them. And you may even find too what you value about your personal life, home and family, perhaps. Venus rules your fourth. And then also about your aspirations, likely reconsidering those as well. All right, and then week's end, we do have Mars trining up to Saturn. So there is a lot of, again, this patient action, great for long-term goals, having to do with these possibilities, this open-minded adventurous stuff, whatever it is for you. And a lot of this has already been structured because you've had Saturn in your fifth over the past couple of years, which has really been helping you ground your self-expression. Long-term enjoyments versus short-term enjoyments. Some of you too, bringing in a bit of self-expression with your career, or building your career in such a way that it is more of an expression of what you're about. So anyways, all that hard work you've been doing with your self-expression and your passions, that's really paying off this week with that trine up to Mars, giving you, again, more of that wherewithal and patience to cultivate some of these long-term goals you might have, with where you can expand your horizons and tap into that adventurous spirit of the ninth house. All right. So Cancers, have a fantastic week. I want to thank you all very much for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and I will see you all next week. Welcome, Leos, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So let's first have a look at the fact that your ruler, the sun, is in the 7th house of relationships. And you just had that solar eclipse last weekend in this house. So very much emphasizing, this week is very much emphasizing that you're doing a lot of clearing, a lot of releasing, having to do with past unhealthy perspectives of relationships, or for some of you, quite literally, relationships in your life. But of course, the process all starts from within first, right? So it's been a spiritual time, and this week is certainly no exception to that. But as the week unfolds, there is a bit more momentum, a bit more, that ball starts to get moving with whatever it is that now you're wanting to cultivate in your life, having to do with relationships, in a way that is, of course, letting go of, again, all this unhealthy or past stuff, or maybe the yearnings there, having to do with that south node. So over the next 6 months, it's essentially that. It's a spiritual process of making these new changes that you want to see to bring more health back to your relationship sector, to bring more health back to, and this is all relationships, mind you. For some of you, it's romantic. Others, it's maybe business partnerships, or one in particular, just whatever, all of your interactions with others. So a very good first half of the week to listen, see what new things are shaping up here, but certainly as the week unfolds, continue to put energy into where you can make change in this area so it's healthy and balanced. All right, so that's certainly the most important thing involving your ruler, and your ruler does go over Neptune Wednesday through Thursday in the 7th, so likely there are some some things that are intuitive. You know, it's gonna be a very intuitive time for you Wednesday through Thursday, of this sort of inner, this outer haze, but inner guidance of you going within to see what it is that you really enjoy on a soul level about your relationships, or about how you interact with others or cooperate or whatever, all this one-to-one stuff. So listen, it's going to be very important Wednesday through Thursday. Maybe getting some alone time, some spiritual time out, things like this can really help you gain these insights. Some of you too might have a newfound understanding, again, about, I think all of you on some level, a newfound understanding about what you truly enjoy and love to connect to on that soul level with people in your life, but all relationships, and maybe a relationship in particular. All right, and then Mercury will go over Neptune on Saturday, so pretty much all week, you're going to have these little bits of insight and intuition, but Saturday could certainly be some practical insight or practical ideas having to do with some of this. So that's your ruler. But coming into this week on Monday, Mars is going to be conjoining up to Uranus, opposing up to Jupiter. So this is emphasizing the fact that it has been a very deep time for you these past couple months, of you going within and, accepting essentially all these deeper dimensions of life and deeper dimensions of yourself, and all these fears and things and attachments have been brought to the surface for you to do that acceptance. So anyways, it's going to be very liberating coming into the week, where you are willing to, approach life in a vulnerable way and get deeper with life, or whatever it is, or face some fears, break some attachments, make some changes there to free yourself up. Even though you have to face the fears perhaps to do that, or something like that. So very liberating. And I think if you do feel the confidence and the motivation to do that, I think it can be an excellent week to implement that, starting a brand new 2.5-year cycle with that Mars starting in your 8th. Now, the Jupiter retrograde side to it is that over these past roughly 7 months, there's been plenty of opportunities for you to cultivate your self-reliance, right? And although Jupiter's retrograde, there still is potentials with your finances, anything that helps you cultivate your savings, your investments, more material security in your life. But it's all because you're right now doing this reconsideration within about what are your own personal, what is your personal sense of self-worth, and reconsidering what your time's worth, what your energy's worth, all this kind of stuff, and even reconsidering your natural gifts. So what are your natural gifts? How is that sense of self-worth, you could say? And through that re-examination that you're doing right now, there is, yes, a lot of insight, and it can be very motivating to maybe cultivate some of this, these values, this material stuff, or whatever it is here coming into this week. But it's all being reconsidered. So, over these next few months, you want to just kind of redo and just know that it's a rehashing time when it comes to those possibilities there. Okay. All right, so that's the beginning of the week. We talked about Wednesday, talked about midweek. Friday and Saturday, Venus does go retrograde. Venus will go retrograde in your 8th house, so you'll likely be reconsidering for the next few weeks things like your career, your productive life. Some of you be rethinking how you communicate. Maybe it's quite literally things that do involve communication in your life. And it's all in the area of the 8th, so you'll be reconsidering what it is you, again, truly value in life. Venus in the 8th has been helping you connect to people on a deeper level, connect to yourself on a deeper level, and all of this. So you'll be reconsidering, this true values, and where you can have, again, that openness and vulnerability with yourself, with others, with life in the process. But it'll be reconsidered, right? So just kind of being adaptive and flexible, and just know it's a learning phase for a lot of that coming up. All right. And then the week ends with Mars trining up to Saturn. So yeah, there's so much positive energy with Mars that I think it's just such an excellent time for you to really get down to the bottom of things. Get down to the bottom of what matters most in life. Some of you are doing things like research. Some of you might be involved with others' finances, or freeing yourself up from unhealthy like debts or things like this. And that is, again, a reflection of what's going on in the inner level as you're releasing from any unhealthy fears and bonds and attachments. But anyways, going into next week, you have very good drive, very good patience, patient action, and wherewithal to, again, get deeper in life. And with whatever else you might be feeling motivated to do, which is starting off this week. All right. So Leos, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And I'll see you all next week. Take care. Welcome, Virgos, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So first things first, looking at your ruler, Mercury. Mercury is in your 6th house, so there's likely been, and will continue to be this week, an emphasis on your daily life. For some of you, it's your work life. Others, it's your routine, your diet, your regimens, things like this. Anything that's about, improving things, and even with your work, like improving your craft and stuff, or your routine. So that's the emphasis, and likely from last weekend, with that solar eclipse in your 6th, a lot of you did gain some insights about maybe making some changes with your routine or with your health or with your work to create some more balance here in this area, a bit more, some change so you can have a bit more health here. So it's an excellent week to be cultivating all of that, especially because your ruler's here, and even that solar eclipse conjunct your ruler really emphasize that this is a new beginning for you very personally, and for a lot of you with your career as well, since Mercury rules your 10th. But yeah, it's deep. It's all about cultivating a bit of balance, a bit of health with your routine, with your career, most fundamentally you, generally in your life. And I think as you gain a bit of momentum this week to do that, I think it can be very, a great week to cultivate that. And it's really a 6-month cycle. So 6 months from now will be a high point with a lot of the stuff that you are freeing up and liberating, making those changes with, involving yourself at this time. All right, so that's your ruler. Mercury is going to be conjunct Neptune on Saturday too. So at the weekend, there is likely going to be the spiritual time too, this new beginning, you going within, maybe getting some intuition about the work and the routine, the importance of improvement. This is your house. It's the house of everything that has to do with organizing, taking care of stuff in your work. So it's about connecting with Neptune. Neptune's been helping you connect to your day-to-day work in a way that's more soul fulfilling to you. And so I think you'll be gaining some insights about that. And then through that, you could have a bit of acceptance in your everyday sphere. You're willing to go with the flow. You're willing to detach, all because of the spiritualization that's taking place. But it's a process. It's very neutral. But as you go within, particularly around Saturday, you'll find that there's this whole spiritualization happening with you, new insights. And again, where you can have a bit of peace, tranquility with your daily work, but also to where it can fit with your soul. All right, make those changes there for your soul fulfillment. All right, so that's your ruler. Coming into this week, though, Mars does conjoin up to Uranus in your 7th. You get a lot of emphasis in your 7th house of relationships. You could be feeling quite inspired coming into this week about relationships, or feeling confident there, or quite direct. This is all relationships, mind you, all interactions with others. But whatever it is, also great to be cultivating this week. You're likely still doing a lot of reconsideration about your own personal goals, and about things having to do with your independence. That's been Jupiter retrograde in your 1st house. So with the inspiration and all that, just know the possibilities and potentials are supposed to be reworked at the moment. If there's been anything you have been inspired to do over the past 7 months, that's great. But now with this reconsideration, just know that it's a good time to kind of relearn or redo it, restructure it, and again, learn more about what are your personal needs, maybe those personal needs in relationships, but just in general, where you can have a bit of independence in your life. All right, but it's a very positive aspect, starting things off a brand new 2.5-year cycle with Mars, about particularly freedom in relationships. I mean, this is essentially what this is about. with Uranus. Uranus has been helping you have more freedom in your relationships and a bit more free spiritedness about them. Maybe it's not in the relationships, maybe it's just about relationships. And so there's some great motivation to cultivate whatever that is for you specifically this week. All right, then Wednesday through Thursday, the sun does go over Neptune again. There's all this intuitive insight about your daily stuff we were talking about. Thursday, Friday, Jupiter does oppose up to Uranus exact. So there could be some new insights about the importance of independence in relationships, freedom in relationships, your personal needs in relationships, and just the importance of having healthy relationships in your life. And then Venus goes retrograde. So you'll be likely reconsidering what you value in relationships as well over these next few weeks. Reconsidering your values there, what it is you enjoy about them, connecting, with them. And again, it's all of your one-to-one connections, even just everyday connections, just all relationships, no matter what they are and to what extent they are. All right, and then the week does end with Mars trine up to Saturn. So there's a lot of positive energy here going into, again, in this sense where whatever it is you're motivated towards here, you do have the slow and steady action going into next week, or commitment in relationships and patience and responsibility and all that. You got the grounded energy to really help facilitate that. And that's been because you've had Saturn in your third for the past roughly couple of years, really helping you take your communication seriously. So your communication could be grounded there. Even your mind is grounded, your whole perspective and all of that. So very good energy there to, again, cultivate what you could feel inspired at the beginning of the week and maybe all week long involving relationships. All right. So Virgos, hope you found this helpful. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And I will see you all next week. Libras, welcome to your portion of the weekly forecast. So let's first have a look at your ruler Venus, who is in your 6th house of your daily routine and your work. It's really been placing a lot of emphasis on this area. In fact, these past couple months, really, since Mars has gone in there. But yeah, still great to be cultivating. I think what you'll likely feel coming into this week with Mars conjunct Uranus here is a bit of motivation and drive towards your routine. Or maybe for some of you, your work, your daily work, anything you do on a daily level. And for some of you too, your personal growth and personal development. So whatever that is, I think, although this week does start off with a low energy with the solar eclipse, as things unfold, it's just an excellent week to be cultivating, really where you can have freedom with your work and freedom with your daily routine. That's what Uranus has been showing you do. Mars over Uranus is like now this next 2.5 years of you cultivating that. Of you bringing in more of that freedom there, or having your work be more of an expression of what you're truly about, or having greater time management and energy management, so you have more freedom in your life in general. So very good there. The opposition to Jupiter does suggest that there's a lot of opportunity still to either work behind the scenes or get some alone time, even though there's a lot of stuff you're reconsidering with that. And that's what you want to do, is just kind of reconsider and rethink the importance of your alone time, the importance of having peace and tranquility in your life, and whatever you can do, whether they're spiritual activities or rest or whatever, as it has been these past 7 months. But things you can do here to bring in more peace in your life, and just rethink and reconsider some of those potentials there. And then finding the balance too, where you are getting that alone time and then you are still cultivating this routine and work. All right, so very good there with that bit of motivation coming into the week. And then Uranus does oppose up to Jupiter midweek, Thursday through Friday there. So Thursday through Friday, that could be some insight about some of that stuff I just talked about. But then your ruler does go retrograde around Friday and Saturday for the next few weeks. So you're going through now, as you do once a year, astrologically speaking, going through this reconsideration about just things in general in your life and who you are and where you're putting your energy. And again, about your work and routine, specifically what you value about your work and routine and what motivates you about that. So yeah, allowing yourself to do that, knowing that it's just the time now for these next few weeks, starting this weekend basically, of just going within, maybe taking a step back and just being flexible and adaptive, see what information's coming your way, give a bit of space there, because all the stuff you learn these next few weeks will then be in your arsenal, will be in your bag to then implement moving forward. And again, a lot of this does have to do with the daily stuff here. But with your ruler, it's just generally you, a reconsideration, reflecting on things in life in general. All right, now on the week's end, Mars does trine up to Saturn, so you got a lot of positive support again from Mars. Mars is very well aspected, giving you not only a bit of that inspiration and motivation with the routine, but probably feeling quite like you are willing to take things slow here. Maybe build some long-term goals and long-term plans having to do with that. And a lot of that's been because you've likely over the past couple of years been taking seriously your financial life. And so it's still excellent for you to do that. Long-term savings, long-term enjoyments versus short-term enjoyments. Dollar saved, a dollar earned is Saturn in the second house. And also, most fundamentally, your sense of self-worth has been going through this more grounded energy. So whatever that's been, though, it's now very much supporting your work and your routine. And I think you can have a good grounded approach to a lot of that going into next week. And even with your relationships, and again, the financial side to life. All right, so that's the sixth house. Now the fifth house has been very important. That's where you had the solar eclipse last weekend. So it is a week of implementing this whole new beginning about your self-expression. You've likely released a lot about this last weekend and still are this early part of the week. Anything unhealthy, any past things, any attachments or yearnings that as you release having to do with your self-expression or the things you're passionate about in life or the things you create in life, that releasing you're doing is freeing you up, and that's starting this whole new cycle of now this next 30 days, but also the next 6 months, having to do with this new sense of self-expression, this clearer sense, this freer sense of now that you've released a lot of the yearnings and fears and attachments or whatever past things, karmic things that have been holding you down subconsciously, having to do with that area. All right, so it's great too with Mercury in the fifth, maybe be quite literally expressing yourself verbally, or maybe with the routine, doing some hobbies, interests, whatever it is that passion is really invoking for you at the moment. All right, so yeah, Libras, that is the week in a nutshell. Certainly motivation, drive there for the routine, balancing that with the intuition. In fact, with the Sun and Mercury over Neptune, I do want to say in your fifth, likely around Wednesday, Thursday, and then again on Saturday, you're likely gaining some intuition about what it is you truly are passionate about in life, and allowing the spiritualization to occur of you connecting to things and doing things because you enjoy them on a soul level, right? And again, that's the self-expression, which is more receptive in nature of expressing yourself on that soul level. But then there's all the stuff which is much more exciting and different and new with the routine you could certainly be cultivating as well. All right, so Libras, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Welcome, Scorpio and Ophiuchus, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So let's first look at your ruler Mars, who is in your fifth house. You've got a lot of energy in your fifth house, in fact, giving you a lot of good motivation, drive towards your passions in life. For some of you, it's your creative passions. Others, it's maybe spending time with your children. Others, maybe it's romantic. Anything that you are passionate about. Some of you, too, your entrepreneurship or work or career, something like that. But whatever it is an excellent week for those things, because you do have your ruler here giving you the drive and motivation, and most fundamentally just for you to express yourself in very direct and independent ways. Now, coming into the week with Mars over Uranus, there's likely this newfound freedom or confidence or motivation here to have to cultivate these things you're passionate about in a way that by putting energy into them, you are creating change with them, or change with the way you're expressing yourself, or this intuition you're gaining about what you enjoy and things. But you're creating this change in such a way that it's making these things, or making your life in general, more of a reflection of what you're truly about. And that's essentially what Uranus helps us do, is in this case, express yourself in ways that are more of an expression of who you are, cultivate and enjoy those passions of yours, whether they're productive or more fun. It's the house of fun, but what it might be depends on each of you individually. But whatever that is, whatever you're creating here or enjoying or spending time with, cultivating it in a way that is an expression of what you might say your true self. Okay. And all of that is because you're reconsidering a lot of your aspirations right now. It's been an excellent time the past about 7 months for you to cultivate your hopes and wishes for the future. Now, because Jupiter's retrograde and has been for the past few weeks, all these possibilities here about the future are being reworked. So you want to allow yourself the time to do that as well. Understand that you could feel inspired towards some of these things, but also allow these next roughly 3 or 4 months to be a time of reworking, reconsidering, redoing some of these things. And it's in that process that you're going to be learning a lot. I think this week you're going to be learning a lot about not only what you're passionate about, but also too about these future aspirations. That could be particularly Thursday through Friday when we have Jupiter opposite Uranus, and even late December of last year. You likely came into this year with a bit of inspiration for some of this stuff, whether it's the self-expression, things you're passionate about, or those future aspirations. Some of you too may be spending some time with your friends or groups or organizations, network circles, things like that. So things are certainly moving forward for you in that area. And I think any drive and motivation you put into either of these areas can be fantastic. All right, so that's the fifth house involving your ruler Mars. At the week's end, we do have Mars trining Saturn. So you all could be feeling quite grounded going into next week, quite disciplined, structured. And again, that could be a positive force for you to put all that structure and discipline into whatever this fifth house stuff is for you. And that's because Saturn's already been in your first for the past couple of years. A lot of you have taken on some new responsibilities since then, or working extra hard, or just being more patient. Some of you kind of becoming more mature, you could say, as of course we can all be more mature, so to speak, or more responsible. But it's that sort of more grounding energy you've been grounding with yourself that is now directly supporting a lot of this self-expression stuff, whatever it is for you personally. And Venus is going to go retrograde Friday and Saturday over the weekend as well, in the fifth. So you'll likely find that there is some also reconsideration with not only those aspirations, but also, again, what it is you enjoy in life, or some of these fifth house related things, what you value about them with Venus. And maybe even too, the importance of fun, playfulness in your relationships. Maybe for some of you, Venus does rule your seventh, or the importance of self-expression in your relationships. But again, all based on what it is that you're passionate about, and this whole rediscovering process that you're going to be going through about these interests of yours in life. And then it's good to be flexible and adaptive for the next few weeks with Venus retrograde there involving self-expression. All right, so that's the fifth house definitely emphasized for you. The other major area for you is the fourth house, and this is where you had the solar eclipse last Sunday. So this is the house of home, family, and health. And it's a great week to now continue to cultivate any new beginnings that you've had since last weekend or this early part of the week, of you clearing, of you letting go of any yearnings or past things that have been unhealthy or holding you back subconsciously in this area, having to do with home, family, and health, and or some of you it's home, others might be your health. But yes, great week for that. Continue to develop that. Mercury's in your fourth, so your mind's likely here. You could be learning a lot about your personal life and values and home, family, health. In fact, with the Sun and Mercury over Neptune, there's a lot of intuitive insight this week about this personal stuff, and maybe letting go and surrendering there can really help facilitate the process and help those insights kind of become more intuitively clear. And this is, again, also you can establish and cultivate your career. 2016 and 2017 have been the life path. The life path for those years has been for you to cultivate your career and your productive life. And so as you're bringing more balance back now with your health and your home and family and your personal life, it's going to be serving as the foundation for all this productive stuff, which will be unfolding as well for the rest of the year. All right, so Scorpion and Fucus, hope you found this helpful. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares, and I will see you all next week. Welcome, Sagittarius, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So let's first look at your ruler, Jupiter, who is retrograde in your 10th house. So in a greater context of things, the past 7 months has been a good time for you to be expanding with your career, or for some of you, your productive life, whatever that might be, your public image, achievement and success, essentially. So over the past few weeks, though, your ruler's been retrograde here. So you're likely in this reconsideration process of a lot of these things, maybe just reflecting on things in your life in general at the moment, and maybe rethinking some things relating to your home, family, and or health. And so with all this sort of internal processing that you could be doing at this time, I think there's a lot of insight. And this could certainly be a week of insight with a lot of that. In fact, right at the beginning of the week, your ruler opposes up to Mars, which means you could be feeling quite confident, quite motivated. And maybe a lot of that has to do with the home, family, and or health area, because that's where there's a lot of concentration of energy. You've got all these planets down here in your 4th. And with Mars over Uranus on Monday, or Sunday and Monday, of last week and coming into this week, there is this newfound sense of freedom with where you can have freedom with your health, or freedom with your home life, or family, or your past, or your personal life, something like that. In fact, Uranus has been helping you find that freedom, and will continue, but has been for the past 7-8 years, and will be for the next couple years. So, but now with Mars in this brand new 2.5-year cycle with Mars, whatever this is, I think it's an excellent week for cultivating, again, your personal life, whether it's your family life, your home life, or your health. So along with that, this is about balancing, of course, the career stuff too, because that's still expanding. So it's really just saying that you can't have one without the other, right? Like if you want your career to go well, you got to have good personal life, good home life. In order to cultivate good home life and personal life, you do have to have achievement, something to strive for, future things of your growth and development there. So balancing those two can be very important this week, but certainly can be an inspiring week, even though we're coming into it in the lowered energy time of that solar eclipse. As the week unfolds, I think you'll be gaining more momentum there. And I think where a lot of the momentum is actually coming from is the 3rd house, which is where you had the solar eclipse last Sunday. And so that has to do with all this releasing you've been doing with your mind, or your perspective on things, or maybe things in your everyday sphere involving communication or correspondence, or for some of you, your community or your siblings. Whatever this clearing is that you've been doing with these matters, or one of these matters, it's been freeing you up. And so it's an excellent week to continue to cultivate whatever those new beginnings are, of where you can have health and make some changes and bring some balance back with this very mental and practical part of the chart. And this is so that you can, this year with the North Node and the 9th, expand on the level of your open horizons, of expanding your horizons, whether it's through philosophy, higher learning, or tapping into that adventurous spirit. Now, although not emphasized this week, that is the life path of last year and this year. All right, so those are the two key areas. Definitely the 4th house of your roots, and then your 3rd house of the mind. So emotion and mind really being activated at the moment. Wednesday through Thursday, the sun does go over Neptune in the 3rd, followed by Mercury on Saturday. So a lot of the intuitive insight that you are gaining does have to do with the practical. So Neptune's already been helping you have a bit more of a detachment, a bit more acceptance, and listen to that intuitive insight, and maybe get a bit of R&R, just a bit of acceptance and letting go of, things outside of your immediate sphere of influence that maybe the mind wants to understand or control or something like that. So as you go within this week, particularly Wednesday through Thursday and then Saturday, I think you will be seeing this soul connection, this intuitive connection between your mind and your soul. And of course, the insights that do come along with that in terms of where you can have a bit of that peace and tranquility with the mind, with communication, and anything else you've been doing on that practical level there. All right, Thursday through Friday, Uranus does oppose up to Jupiter exact, again, balance with the home and roots and career life. Venus does go retrograde in the 4th. So you'll likely, over these next few weeks, starting this weekend, is reconsider some of the things you value about your personal life and value about home and family and health, and maybe even quite literally redo or rework some of those things. All right. And then the week does end with Mars trining up to Saturn, giving you, again, more positive support for what can be a great source of your motivation. You know, your motivation drives are likely at a low at the moment because you got all these planets at the bottom of the chart, especially like Mars. He wants to be at the top of the chart. So it's good that you're channeling this energy and drive into your personal values, into your personal life, home, family, health. Those you're sentimentally connected to. You know, all of this more watery, reflecting on the past and all that. And that's the source of motivation, drive. But anyways, going into next week, you do have a good grounded energy with a lot of these matters. Again, a lot of you are starting something new with these things. Probably more so next month where we have the next new moon. But things are certainly unfolding and going into next week, probably feeling quite long-term and grounded with some of these things as well. All right. So Sagittarius, have a fantastic week. I hope this was helpful. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And if you have any questions, be sure to comment down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. All right, Sag, have a great one. See you next week. Welcome, Capricorns, to your portion of the weekly forecast here. So let's first look at your ruler Saturn, who's been in your 11th house of your aspirations. Just as a recap, you know, the past couple of years has been a great time for you to cultivate your aspirations. Some of you, I mean, fundamentally for all of you, it's your personal hopes and wishes for the future. So as you put energy into that, you're going to find that that's slowly but surely building over these surrounding years, and he's got only about a year left in there. So that's continuing to unfold for you. For others, it could be you're deciding to take seriously maybe your friends or network circles or community things like that. So that's the theme in the larger sense of the picture. But this week is a week of, again, this unfoldment of that solar eclipse from last weekend, and for you having to do with your values and your sense of self-worth, and for some of you too, things having to do with finances or investments and savings and things like this. So whether it's inner values or outer values, or inner resources or outer resources, or more than likely both, that is what's unfolding this week. And what you've cleared, more than likely, and we'll probably still be clearing these first few days of the week, is all these unhealthy patterns and unhealthy things that are relating to your sense of self-worth and your self-reliance and all of this, that as it's clearing, it's creating more space. And it's through that space that now, over the next 6 months, you're going to be cultivating a lot of these, this new, fresh perspective about your inner and outer resources there. Okay, and there's a lot to learn with Mercury in your second house. Your mind is likely very much on these things. And in fact, with the Sun and Mercury over Neptune, there could be some uncertainty or doubt about these matters. But again, that's the outer. So Neptune is going to help you go within, particularly Wednesday and Thursday, and then Saturday, to go within, to gain that insight that, yes, everything does come in divine timing. Yes, there is a universal process. And it is really, and it's through the area of letting go with the whole resources that it's helping you find that peace and tranquility and go with the flow with where things are taking you to. So it's a very receptive time in regard to that, yet an active time of now you slowly but surely cultivating this newfound sense of maybe your sense of self-worth, or your natural gifts and natural abilities, or whatever this new sense of value is that's been unfolding. All right, so that's the more specific backdrop, and then you do have a lot of emphasis here in your third house. In fact, right at the beginning of the week, a lot of you could be quite motivated to cultivate maybe some things involving learning, are practical things, maybe reading books, doing some writing, communication, maybe some of you connecting with community or your siblings, however that's manifesting for you. There's a lot of freedom here. And so Uranus has been helping you access the freedom of mind and of learning and of communication, of communicating who you are and learning things that are a reflection of what you're about, or writing in that fashion, connecting in that fashion with your community. And so, yeah, with Mars, it could be a lot of motivation to do that. So whether you're deciding to read or write or whatever it is, practical stuff, I think is excellent this week. Great for the confidence there and the motivation there. There is that opposition up to Jupiter, so you're likely still reconsidering a lot of the possibilities and potentials about the future. And all those possibilities, again, are being reworked for these next 3 or 4 months. So allowing yourself the time to do that, but still expanding with that open mind and that adventurous spirit is excellent at the moment. And Venus is going to go retrograde in the 3rd on Friday and Saturday this weekend. So you'll likely be reconsidering what you value with this practical stuff. Reading, writing, communicating, whatever it's been for you emphasized here. So, and even trade and business for some of you also, which is 3rd house too. Commercial stuff. But yeah, so reconsider that for the next few weeks with Venus. And I think you'll be learning a lot about all this practical stuff, if there's been anything in particular, or just about things like communication and your mind, and really getting to the rational side of things. All right, so that's the Venus retrograde, and then the week does end with your ruler, Saturn, trining up to Mars. So you'll likely be going into next week with a bit of motivation drive too. Again, maybe some of these 3rd house things, practical stuff, or community stuff for some of you, or business trade stuff. But whatever it is, whatever the motivation is, I think you'll be feeling that it's good to kind of implement that into all areas of life, and maybe even into those aspirations of yours, which have been unfolding. All right, so Capricorns, have a fantastic week. Hope you found this helpful. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares of these videos. And hope you guys have a great week. Take care. Welcome, Aquarius, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So let's first look at your ruler Saturn, again, to keep context that these past couple of years have been really emphasizing you taking seriously your productive life, or your public image for some of you, or things relating to achievement and success. So that's still the main theme, and as you continue to put positive energy into this productive stuff, I think over this, probably the next year, moving forward, you're going to find a lot of, slowly but surely, things being cultivated with that area. Now, this week in particular, though, there's a lot of emphasis on, of course, your house. We had the solar eclipse in your sign last Sunday. And so it's an excellent week for you, starting this new beginning about really clearing and letting go of all these unhealthy things having to do with the self. A lot of it's karmic, a lot of it's past related, a lot of it's the yearnings, maybe for independence or for those personal needs of yours, or for greater understanding of who you are, what you're about. But as you've been releasing all that, it's freeing you up. And that's essentially what this week is emphasizing, is more of this newfound sense of self and independence and freedom. That is, of course, so important for your sign, of individuality, being who you are. And and so that's continuing to unfold. We'll gain a bit of energy and momentum as the week moves forward. And this is all in the context of what has been last year and this year about you developing and learning more about relationships, right? So as you're freeing up all this past and karmic stuff having to do with yourself that's unhealthy, and you're bringing more balance with your independence in yourself, it's directly serving as a foundation for all this unfoldment with, and all the stuff you're learning about with relationships. All right, so yeah, you got Mercury in your first, so you got mental energy. You could be utilizing that as well. Now, I do want to say Wednesday through Thursday, and then Saturday, both the Sun and Mercury are going to go over Neptune in the first house as a reminder that, you know, all these things having to do with yourself and your independence and your self-image and all this is supposed to be unknown. Neptune in the first means that it's been, for the past many years, helping dissolve all mental constructs of who you are, what you're about, or even where your life's going. So it's a great week to go within and do that receptive work, that inner work, and listen to that inner intuition, because there is insight, and it's, you know, essentially about you connecting to your soul, the essence of who you are, and where you can have more detachment and let go and surrender in your life, and understanding that everything does unfold in divine timing. And of course, that's easier said than done, but these are neutral aspects, so I think naturally you will be willing to do this. I think naturally there will be a spiritualization taking place, and I think with this awareness that this is happening, it can really facilitate the process. All right, so that's the first house. The other area is your second house, which is the house of your inner and outer resources. You should have a lot of motivation, drive here for these things, whether it's the finances, savings, investments, or some of you, it's your natural gifts and abilities. Some of you, it's connecting to earth and nature, being grateful for what you have in life, enjoying the simple life and all this. So yes, great drive here. Mars conjuncts Uranus right at the beginning of the week. And although, again, the beginning of the week is a lowered energy, there is a bit of inspiration here. Maybe it's inspiration to cultivate some of these values. Maybe it's been through some of these opportunities that you're reflecting on about others' resources or shared resources. And even too about reflecting on what matters most in life and the deeper side of life and the importance of having healthy interdependency. So can't have one without the other, of course, right? Like we have self-reliance, but then we are always relying on others. And when we rely on others, it is important for us to have some level of self-reliance, right? So finding that balance there. But whatever it is, I think there's something new sparking this beginning of the week of motivation and drive here for these inner and outer resources. And then Thursday through Friday, about midweek, Jupiter does oppose up to that Uranus exact, emphasizing the importance of that balance. And maybe since late December, if you've been feeling inspired, having to do with resources or your values or the deeper values of life and, you know, shared things and all this, there could be a new take, a new understanding, a new shift with some of those things. Now, Friday and Saturday going into the weekend, Venus does go retrograde in your second. So it'll likely be a time of now reconsidering, yes, what it is you actually value about your values. And what I mean by that is, you know, what is it about, let's say, finances that you truly value, right? Because the money and all this doesn't actually do anything in and of itself. It's what you truly value and what it's actually providing for you. So over the next few weeks, just kind of rethinking your inner values, what you truly value in life. And that's going to help facilitate what is, again, now this whole new cycle with Mars, this new 2.5-year cycle that is unfolding about having this freedom with values. And that's really the key, right? Uranus is having freedom with finances and resources, both in the sense of not being bound by them and also in the sense of having them in your life in such a way that just so that you can have more freedom. Because you do have to have, of course, good material security to have freedom. Everyone's amount is different, but that's essentially the idea. So things like that. Okay. And then the week does end with Mars trine up to Saturn. And this is a great motivation drive again for those resources. You got positive energy there. It's very much supporting the productive stuff, whatever you've got going on with that. And you can be feeling quite grounded and committed and long-term. Great for long-term goals, in fact, with all this resource stuff. All right, so Aquarius, that's the week in a nutshell. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below and I'll do my best to answer them. But yeah, thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares, and I will see you all next week. Welcome, Pisces, to your portion of the weekly forecast. So first things first, let's look at your ruler Jupiter, who is retrograde these past few weeks. You've been likely going through a bit more of an internal process, or maybe reconsidering some things, maybe involving relationships, and maybe your career as well. So it's been a great time for relationships really the past 7 months. I think you can be learning a lot about them. There should be opportunities to cultivate new and existing relationships in your life, and even through your relationships, see opportunities. But it's all been reworking right now. So that's what you want to do for these next few months while you're reconsidering your life and who you are and all this internal stuff. You also kind of want to reconsider and maybe rehash or rethink about relationships, and just be flexible and adaptive there. And any type of partnerships, maybe your contracts, rework some of those as well. But coming into this week, Mars does oppose up to your ruler, so you could be feeling quite motivated and driven this week, even though it is, again, the lowered energy time with the beginning of the cycle. But if you are feeling like motivating yourself, maybe towards your goals, your personal needs, all of that can be quite exciting, in fact, with Mars over Uranus in your sign. You know, Uranus over the past 7 or 8 years has been helping you have more freedom with your independence and freedom with being who you are and your individuality and all this. And Mars over here motivating to do that. And you could be very direct at the moment, or maybe taking action or energy, or literally getting your physical energy moving. So whatever that is, it's very good. And as you're gaining more of this independence and cultivating these personal goals and personal needs of yours, it is, of course, balancing that with relationships, and saying that, of course, relationships need you to be independent. And in order for you to have a good sense of self and independence, you do need, of course, good relationships, healthy relationships in your life. So that'll be an important balance, probably Thursday through Friday. And if there has been anything since late December that you've been feeling inspired to cultivate, there can be some more. There's just a new shift with that midweek, and maybe it taking on a new direction if there's been something in particular. And because your ruler is opposing Uranus, yeah, you could be feeling quite liberated, free Thursday through Friday, but probably more of the internal sense with that retrograde. Now, Venus is going to go retrograde Friday through Saturday in the first, so you'll likely be reconsidering the values that you have with your goals and your values with yourself and maybe your self-image. All this stuff that does have to do with you in the sense of your image and your goals, and all this are going through a reconsideration to add to the Jupiter retrograde as well. So it is good to be flexible and adaptive this weekend going into the next few weeks regarding goals, values, even finances, material stuff, maybe communication, all this stuff that has to do with interpersonal stuff. And you're going to learn a lot through this process. And so whatever you learn these next few weeks, you'll likely then implement, and it'll give you a greater sense of value, greater sense of self-value, and whatever it is you're rediscovering about what you value in life. Now, the other area that's really emphasized is a spiritual area. It's your 12th house. It's where you had the solar eclipse last weekend. So, in the greater context of things, this is that there's been all this past energy being released last weekend, and really the first few days of this week still, of unhealthy things having to do with your alone time, or wanting to escape, or ideals or fantasies, things that remove us from reality or remove us from the present moment. And so it's been about, and I think this is what you're generally coming into this week, is where you can release all these things so you can have healthy peace, healthy tranquility, healthy alone time in your life. And so with that fresh new beginning, it's an excellent week to be cultivating that. Meditations, an idea, yoga, just getting some R&R perhaps. Some of you diving very deep with yourself psychologically, of accepting some wounds or traumas, things like that can free you up. And all of this is starting now for the next 6 months, this new beginning with having more peace, acceptance, and essentially spirituality in your life. Okay. And then the week does end with Saturn trining up to Mars in the first house, so you can be feeling quite grounded about, again, these goals and what is an active time, especially by the week's end. We'll be in the first quarter phase of the lunar cycle, which means there is a bit of action, more momentum being built. And again, it's channeled so well into things relating to your independence and your personal needs, while keeping the context of the importance of acceptance, spiritual time out, and having peace in your life. All right. So Pisces, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you all next week.